the Cabinet Secretary, Investment, Trade and Industry, Moses Kuria, is already in the chambers. He is on standby, awaiting directions. And should he be allowed to proceed, he is expected to be responding to queries surrounding the mandate of the Kenya National Trading Corporation, KNTC, and extending to importation by corporations and individuals.
So we proceed with the order that is before us. Senator Chute, you may proceed.
Thank you again, Honorable Speaker. I was on C. Well, my document was tampered with by my friend here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was on C when I was interrupted. The C reads, could the Cabinet Secretary disclose the financial state of KNTC and also indicate how much has been paid to the respective suppliers and how much is outstanding? Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, members. And I want to take this early opportunity to first apologize to this august House because I got this summons slightly over 2 months ago. But Mr. Speaker, the nature of my work is that I've been doing some quite of traveling, not for leisure, not for tourism, but with the aim of assisting our country to open new market frontiers for our goods and services, and also to work with partner countries to attract foreign investment, which is very much required to get our country and our economy moving again. Mr. Speaker, I want to also take the opportunity to thank you and members of the Senate Business Committee and also members of the Senate in general for extending your invitation to me to appraise members on the role of the Kenya National Trading Corporation in addressing the high consumer prices for essential commodities. This, Mr. Speaker, is part of your mandate in considering all matters related to trade and indeed all matters related to our public affairs.
I've seen your written response filed. Now, I just proceed to answer the question as captured on page 2. Use the introduction as your reference notes, but go straight away to question 15, as you have done very well in your response, and then use that introduction as a part of your reference notes, so that we save on time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the question of the type and quantity of goods being imported by the corporation and individuals pre-qualified by the Kenya National Trading Corporation, KNTC, I would like to respond as follows. KNTC is currently dealing with the importation of 4 products, namely fertilizers, rice, beans, and cooking oil or edible oil. The corporation has pre-qualified the following suppliers for the supply of various commodities as stipulated before. Number 1 is Ramal Commodities Trading Corporation, DDMC, Standard Petroleum, Makram Imports and Exports, Pulma Holdings, Multi Commodities FZC, Shehena Commodity, Chalma Holdings, Evertech General Trading, Enterprise Supplies Limited, Loan Trading FCE, and Fast Quality Suppliers Limited. The public procurement, turning to B, what is the procedure used by KNTC to identify and pre-qualify companies which import the goods? Mr. Speaker, the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, PPRA, through its letter to the National Treasury, reference as captioned in the document, dated the 18th of November 2022, confirmed that procurement for commodities and items for normal business trading do not constitute procurement in the meaning construed under Section 2 of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2022. KNTC's procurement is organized in 2 sets. For internal use and consumption, the transaction will be subject to the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Law. Transactions for trading items are progressed outside the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal framework with proper financing and accounting procedures put in place. And this, Mr. Speaker, is recognizing that KNTC is a commercial organization that survives on trading, getting the best offers and suppliers from the market, selling at the best price, and does not receive any funding from the exchequer for that purpose. So the procedure runs as follows. 1, in accordance with the timelines indicated by the clients, the manager of the sales division raises and signs appropriate purchase requisitions to initiate the procurement process. B, the manager sales division, with the support of the supply chain division, shall at the same time prepare specifications for the items to be procured. The experts in the department then they develop specifications or establishment of an internal team to prepare the specifications. C, the purchase requisition and the specific specifications are forwarded to the head of finance for commitment of funds. D, upon commitment of funds by finance, the procurement requisition and specifications, including any other relevant information, is then submitted to the managing director for approval. E, the purchase requisitions is then submitted to the supply chain division to commence the procurement process. F, quotations or bids are then received, opened, evaluated, and an opinion prepared in line with profit margin analysis recommendation for the accounting officer's approval. G, a purchase officer order or a contract agreement is then executed and issued expeditiously. Then the manager of the supply chain division liaises with suppliers and on the delivery schedules for the supplies, of ensuring smooth working of the ad hoc inspection and acceptance team. Only trading items that meet the corporation's requirement are accepted and taken on charge. Then all invoices for the procurement, inspection and acceptance certificates and of payments are officially received at the supply chain department for purpose of payment. And then we have got an annexure there, which Honorable Speaker can be referred to for more details. Turning to question C, on how many companies were awarded business, those currently importing goods, the type and packaging of the commodities being imported during financial year 2021-2022 and financial year 2022-2023. KNTC engaged 11 suppliers for the various commodities in financial year 2022-2023 as tabulated in Annexure 15B. KNTC was not dealing with importation of commodities in the year 2021-2022. Mr. Speaker, on the financial state of KNTC, how much has been paid to the respective suppliers and how much is outstanding? The corporation relies on internally generated revenue to finance its operations. As a corporation that relies on internally generated funds from selling of goods or at minimal profit, we are constantly trying to balance between maintaining low prices for our customers while generating enough income to cover our administrative costs. The financial status of KNTC reflects this delicate balance as we strive to keep our prices affordable without compromising the quality of our products or the financial sustainability of the corporation. Mr. Speaker, the financial performance for KNTC over the past years is contained in that table, and you shall see that in terms of net income, 2022-2023 is at 67 million. The previous year was 96 million. That is 2021-2022, and in terms of recurrent revenue, as we speak, we are at 359 million Kenya shillings, down from 405 million in the preceding year. Amount paid to respective suppliers and balances outstanding, KNTC has procured imported commodities valued at Kenya shillings 22.2 billion as of 30th of April 2023. Commodities worth Kenya shillings 4.8 billion has been delivered. No payments have been made to date to the suppliers since the letters of credit are yet to mature. It must be remembered, Mr. Speaker, that business of the kind of type business you're talking here does not happen by direct cash payment or transfers. It happens by LCs. So it is only as and when the LC matures that the payments become due. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, giving the corporation time to be able to sell the products in the market, and that's why they use this instrument to be able to extend that time. But be as it may, as we speak, the value of goods delivered so far is Kenya shillings 4.8 billion. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer you to Annex 15C2 for the detailed breakdown of procured imported commodities and the status for supplier payments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Sears. C7A, the Senator asking the main question, the primary question, has the opportunity to ask two other supplementary questions. Now, Senator Chute, you may elect to ask them at once, or you may elect to ask one and thereafter allow your colleagues to ask supplementary questions, and then you come in the last.
Thank you once again, Honorable Speaker. I will ask one question first and the other one after my colleagues have asked. My question, Mr. Speaker, to the CS is there is a list of pre-qualified suppliers for the supply of goods, Annex 15A. If you look at 22 pre-qualified entities, there is a supplier by the name First Quality Supplies Limited, who supplied 25 metric tons of fertilizer not listed in the 22 pre-qualified suppliers. How did he end up giving contract of 22 metric tons, 25,000 metric tons to this supplier without pre-qualification? Thank you.
Honorable Sears.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to defer that question until the next round of questions so that I can be able to make some consultation.
You can consult with your team and thereafter you will proceed to respond.
Absolutely.
Just consult.
Oh, much obliged.
Senator Kinyua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been reading and watching on news the issue of importation of edible oil, which has been equated almost to a scandal. Can kindly the minister elaborate to this House the interest of the importers on this issue, and Mr. Speaker, the connection to the same to the media of this country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sears.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Senator, for that question. Mr. Speaker, over the last 6 months or so, this country has allowed, through a Gazette notice, importation of 1.4 million metric tons of maize to address the issue of maize shortage and the skyrocketing price of unga, which was as high as 250 by the September last year. Mr. Speaker, this country has also allowed importation of 1.2 million tons of rice, despite the fact that we have got rice in Moya, in Kirinyaga County, we have got rice in Ahero, in Kisumu County, but it was necessary because of the drought situation, the famine, the food shortage that was there, to make that move and also to manage the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, we got approval from Cabinet to import 125,000 metric tons of edible oil. Mr. Speaker, you'll notice that of all those 3 products, the one with the least amount that was allowed to be imported was edible oil. 1.4 million maize, 1.2 million rice, only 100,000 metric tons of edible oil. Yet the attention out there is not about rice, and farmers from Moya and Ahero would be justified to rise and say, why are you importing rice? And we have got rice we farm rice. But Mr. Speaker, the farmers of Moya and Ahero, they don't have a voice. They don't have the deep pockets. They don't have the money. They don't have the kind of checkbooks as would be required to create the kind of noise that has been heard in the media. Only this item, 125,000, out of which, Mr. Speaker, the amount of edible oil that has landed in this country is only 3,000 metric tons. That is close to 170,000 jerrycans of 20 liters that are used in should not be importing. This is not our job.
Honorable Sears, the question was, as far as edible oil is concerned, did you do single sourcing or was there competitive bidding? It's a question that you can respond in just a sentence.
Mr. Speaker, short answer is we did not single source. All our pre-qualified suppliers are given an equal opportunity to present quotes, and then we take the most competitive quotes because we have to make profit. Mr. Speaker, just to apologize for my lengthy explanation, and why it is emotive for me is because I really also want us to look at the Moya farmer who should be complaining equally like the edible oil person. But the Moya farmer is weak, he has got torn trousers and open shoes, so they have no voice, they are not on the table. So I have no problem answering for edible oil, but really I want to also to somebody to ask on behalf of the rice farmer of Ahero and Moya, not just edible oil of the few cartels. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is a supplementary question on the functionality of KNTC. CS Kuria, last year in November, we wanted to know, under KNTC, how many metric tons of maize has been imported into the country, and what is the projection of consumption, and whether the moratorium of maize is still extended up to harvesting period, because also we are speaking for the torn trousers of a farmer from Nandi, from Wazingishu, from Trans Nzoia, and the CS always be finding time to appear before Parliament. We want this conversation to extend so that when you come, we don't need to ask a lot of questions if you can make yourself available. So on behalf of the maize farmers, and finally, Speaker, because it's one question, whether in the same manner through the KNTC, the issue of importation of fertilizers, and whether how many metric tons of fertilizers was imported into the country through the subsidy program to improve on food security, because we are tired of importing all and everything into the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable CS.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, and thank you, Senator of Nandi, for that question. And that is a conversation I can have every day about the torn farmer, from the guy with the torn shirt and trouser from Mosoriot. It is also close to my heart that we focus on that farmer, because that is what this government is all about. Mr. Speaker, short answer is that we did not, as KNTC, import any maize, and we have not imported any maize. What we've done is that we gave approval for duty-free from the Ministry of Agriculture to import 1.4 million bags of maize to bridge the need that was there, and that has worked somehow to keep us going until the harvest. If we did not do that, Mr. Speaker, by now it could have been a total catastrophe, because we also had a delayed rain, especially within the North Rift. We are monitoring the situation. As a matter of fact, the problem with maize is that there's just no maize. There is no maize in our region. There is no maize in our neighborhood. Even traditional areas where we get maize, like Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina, there's a shortage of maize generally. And that is why also we took that step to import high quantities of rice, hoping that somehow we can be able to moderate our consumption behavior from maize to rice. And Mr. Speaker, I must say that it is not easy, and we hope to achieve it one time, but our loyalty and our fidelity to maize continues, and that should make the Senator of Nandi a happy person. Mr. Speaker, I am glad now we are here where I am, because Senator of Nandi was not very happy with me in November when I talked about importing maize, and I hope that now Mr. Senator of Nandi will confess that I have been vindicated by what has happened over the last 7 months. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we have expended 1 hour on this particular question. We have 2 more CSs on the queue. They came here at exactly 9. They're waiting on the queue. And therefore, I will allow the Senator from Marsabit to ask his second supplementary, which will wind up this session with the CS.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this question has a lot of interest, and I am requesting, if possible, Mr. Speaker, let me ask my question first. The last question is to the Cabinet Secretary. There is a company called Palmer Holdings Limited, which was allocated with 30,000 metric tons of rice, 12,500 metric tons of oil, beans, 20,000 metric tons. The owners of this company are Mary Wambui Mingai and another company under the same ownership called Enterprise Supplies Limited, and again ownership of Mary Wambui Mungai and Mary C. Moniki, are given allocation of 6,250 metric tons. My question is, there are many Kenyans who can supply these commodities. Why only allocate many and huge supplies to this particular person and particular company? And Mr. Speaker, I said earlier, the CS is misleading this House. We have got 13 suppliers, manufacturers of oil. If you give me...
What is your point of order, Senator Charange?
I raise pursuant to standing order number 98, and the second order is escaping my attention. Senator Chude, while I appreciate the very heavy question he's asking, he has mentioned the name Mary C. Wangui. As per the standing orders, you don't discuss somebody who cannot defend themselves. And CR12, I agree, might have done a good research, look at the CR12 of the Attorney Generals. But mentioning a name, Mr. Speaker, who cannot appear here to defend herself by the name Mary C. Wambui as being only, does not, I wish you would have just maintained the corporate name, and then we can move from there. But discussing, Mr. Speaker, where you have made a ruling before on the chair, discussing the person of somebody, even of Moses Kuria as a person, is not allowed by the standing orders. Is it in order to bring the name of Mary C. Wambui? And I've seen media was writing about Mary C. Wambui over the weekend on Sunday Nation. Could the senator be reading a lot of newspaper, and you have read that any stories that is linked to the newspapers, the veracity of that accuracy of that information, as per the contents of asking the question, should not be pushed. So, Mr. Speaker, would the senator kindly withdraw the mentioning of name Mary C. Wambui and substitute with the corporate name of those companies so that we can proceed? I thank you, Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence.
If I go to the senator's question correctly, I think he proceeded to state the company and the directorship and pose the question, why should large quantities of supplies be given to only these companies? And I think it's legitimate.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Again, I would want to remind the CS Trade, and it is very unfair for him to come and give misleading answers here. If you will allow me, Mr. Speaker, Pwani Oil Company, formed in 1981, Kappa Oil Refineries, 1968, Bidco Oil, Bidco Africa, 1986, Menengai Oil Refineries, 1992, Golden Africa, 2015, Edible Oil Limited, 2010, Vipingo Industries, 2022, Duffords Industries, 2009, Gill Oil, 1996, United Millers, 1977, Salwa Kenya Limited, 2018, Vita Oils Limited, 2019.
Point of order, Senator Veronica.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very concerned that my colleague, Senator Chute, begins his sentence by saying that the minister has brought misleading information, while in actual fact there is no evidence to that effect. I think if he wants to address his issues, he can pose the questions. I think that's the opportunity granted to him, and leave the minister to answer, unless he has evidence to show that what is being provided by the minister is misleading. I haven't seen any evidence yet presented to you, Mr. Speaker, or to your desk to show that the minister has been answering to mislead the House. So I don't know why he's taking that direction.
Senator Chute, you have one supplementary question to ask. Refrain from making speeches. Go straight to pose the question to the
Mr. Speaker, you see, I represent Kenyans here. And when a CS comes before us and gives us a misleading answer, and I'm saying it again, because I even cautioned him earlier, I said, we don't have only 5. Now we have 13. I would want him to apologize and say he's very sorry, because this is his docket. And
what is your question? Are you asking, what exactly are you asking?
Mr. Speaker, I have asked a question, and then also I wanted to correct the CS when he said we have only 5 manufacturing companies in Kenya, and I've given the names of those manufacturing. Then it is up to him to say they are not 5, they are 13, or he maintains they are 5. Then we are going to have inquiry on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS.
Honorable Speaker, let me first address the issue of the company that has been mentioned. We advertise publicly for suppliers. It is a public process. It's not a private process. It's not hidden. We have no control absolutely over who applies. We do not ask them to give the details of the owners. We look for the best deal and best price that can enable us to carry out our statutory mandate of managing the cost of living, while also managing the financial strength of the institution. So I am not aware of the names of the shareholders, but I take notice of what Senator Chute has said. So in all fairness, I need to verify if these people have got any criminal record, because that would be the only thing to disqualify them, but that process is very open. On the question of the companies, I have got 2 short answers. One, I do not have the benefit, because Senator Chute in his first question did not have the names of the companies. So I don't have the privilege of having access to the person who has sent those names to him right now subsequently. If I had, I would have prepared accordingly. So therefore, I'm happy to receive it as a written question that will need to be researched so that we can consult, because I do not have all my licensing. I do not have KBC here. I do not have the people who would, give me the kind of information rapidly like the one that who have maybe sent by SMS or WhatsApp to Senator Chute. And finally, assuming I'm wrong, assuming it is 13 companies, not 5, still 13 companies doing business at the exclusion of all other Kenyans is unfair and competitive. It will be illegal and it is unethical. I submit.
Honorable Senators, we will terminate at that juncture. Honorable Senator Mandago, you cannot raise a point of order again as the CS. That's basic rules in our rules and procedure. Honorable CS, thank you so much for coming to shed light on the matters that have been asked by the honorable senators. We will leave it at that. Just to tell you that whenever Senate writes to you requesting you to come for purposes of responding to questions, we are doing that not just for purposes of our own consumption here, but it is a result of the pressure being mounted on the senators as representatives of the people wanting to know what government is doing. And therefore, when you fail to appear, basically you're failing the people of this republic from accessing and from getting answers. So I want to applaud you for taking time to come, and I believe going forward, we will not receive the many letters that we've been receiving that you are unable to come. We thank you, and we wish you well in your ministry. Thank you. We will now proceed